Throughout this video, I will be discussing some sensitive topics around mental health and depression, including mentions of SH or unaliving ideation that might be triggering for some people. If discussions around this topic are difficult for you, please look after your own mental health and consider exiting out of this video.
Hi there, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Charlotte, and today I figured it would be a good time to film one of my Let's Talk videos. If you can hear scuttling happening in the background, there are ferrets loose. Two of them are asleep and the other one has just decided to run buck wild. So yeah, if you hear the cosmic scuttle of tiny ferret feet, you know where it's coming from. I figured now would be a pretty good time for me to film a video like this. I recently uploaded a couple of vlogs where I wasn't doing so good and where I was trying to get myself in a better place. And I figured now that my head feels a little bit clearer, now might be a good time to work on just, I don't know, talking about mental health and the experiences that I've had recently with how my mood is. For those of you who don't know, I'm currently on the waiting list for a diagnosis of ADHD. However, because I don't yet have that diagnosis, it means sorting out my issues is proving to be quite difficult because I can't have the medication that many of the medical professionals that I've seen agree would probably work better for me than what I'm currently taking. So after I finished my most recent depressive episode, I had my little reset week. I've been signed off work for 2 weeks. I'd had a week of holiday that I was using as well. I went back to work. I've reduced my hours, which I think is only going to be a good thing. I'm still doing the same number of days. My shifts are going to be slightly shorter, meaning I'm going to be earning less, but I need to prioritise my mental health, and I've lived on less. I'm sure I can make it work. The way that the NHS and my local doctors are trying to sort out like the best means of treatment for me is they've got me to self-refer through the wellbeing service. I had a phone call with them the other day, which was basically just going over the questionnaire about like low mood and anxiety, and surprise surprise, they were like, yeah, your mood's really low. I could have told you that before taking the test. My anxiety isn't all that bad, but there's a little bit there. That's not really what I feel is holding me back currently, whereas in the past anxiety has been the biggest issue for me, whereas at the moment it is the more sort of low mood, depressive elements of my life that are causing me issues. So I had a phone call with them. It's really frustrating because they want me to do a course of CBT, and the particular run of CBT that they want me to do is essentially setting myself routines in order to make time for the things that I enjoy and that I like doing. Now, if you know anything about ADHD, it's that it can be quite difficult to psych yourself up to do something that in that moment you don't want to do, which makes things difficult. Even fun things like my hobbies and stuff that I like to do that makes me feel better feels like an overwhelming task and I don't want to do it. So having the means of treatment for somebody who has expressed that this is how their brain works and how they navigate, to then be told, so we're going to proceed with the treatment, I feel like honestly it's going to be a bit of a waste of time, because I am somebody that maintains a routine when it suits. The way that my brain is made up and structured, I cannot force myself to do something. My brain doesn't want me to do it. If I'm not getting those dopamine hits from it, it's not happening. And it's not through not wanting to do it and stubbornness. I'm not doing it, or like I don't have those reactions because I'm wanting to be difficult. It's I have no willpower, and given my living situation, which is me and a bunch of animals, I don't have somebody to hold me accountable. So anything that I have to do is on me. Now, I really struggle to see how implementing this kind of treatment is going to be effective, but I've only had like the initial session, so maybe, you know, it might feel a bit better somewhere along the road. But I was given some homework as well. I've had like a workbook that I'm working my way through. That's the other part of this. And it's just like recognizing what changes have been made, and then spurring off from that, it's like the thoughts and feelings that you're having and physical changes that you've noticed. But I can't help but think this is all what I talked about in my session. So I don't really understand why it was necessary for me to go over that all over again. And then for some reason they've sent me another questionnaire to do. I only saw her last week, or spoke to her last week, so I don't know why that's been sent out to me again, so who knows. The other thing that the doctors have put in place for me as well is I'm regularly seeing a mental health practitioner. She's great. I really like her. I wasn't sure that I was gonna do well with this kind of thing because I didn't know how helpful it would be, but it's quite nice for me to have somebody to go and check in with. I see her, sometimes it's every week, sometimes it's every 2 weeks. It just depends on what her availability is like and what mine matches up with. But she's really nice. She lets me talk and talk about my concerns. And when I've mentioned things that are working and things that aren't working, it feels like she listens and takes that on board, which is quite nice. She's easier to talk to than some of the other people that I've dealt with in the past. She has referred me for a service that's called Chime, where I've talked about this in my depressive episode vlog. So basically it's a group type thing. I'll be set up with a support worker who will be around for activities and work booking and like seminar type things about like the brain and why some people are depressed. I don't know. So I haven't started any of that yet. I've not had any correspondence about that any time like now, as of now, but I was told it could take like 4 weeks for them to get in contact with me. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with my mental health stuff. Some of the things that I talked about with my mental health practitioner was that I feel like it doesn't matter the things that I try and do. Like, I try and spend time on my hobbies. I've cut my hours down at work. I have done the things that on paper should make me feel better. And I said to her yesterday, like, I have a support network. I have got friends I hold very, very dear to me. And it just feels like something is missing and I can't quite put my finger on it. And then I feel bad because I feel guilty that I'm effectively taking my friends and the people that are around me for granted. I feel like I am doing everything that I've been told to do, everything that is suggested, and yet I'm still feeling the way that I am. And granted, I don't feel like this all of the time, which makes doing these like booklet style things and even just getting help generally quite difficult, because I find it's not even, what am I trying to say? I feel like when you reach out for help, because it's so difficult in the initial stages to get seen straight away if it hasn't escalated to the point of like an attempt on your life or inflicting harm on yourself, you don't get that priority. And I'm not saying that people that are experiencing those things shouldn't take a priority, but it can be quite difficult when your mood is all over the place to sort of pinpoint, okay, this is what's going on with me. This is, I'm struggling to find the right way of saying this. When your mood is all over the place, to when your appointment rolls around, you could be in a better place, and by which they will take a look at that and go, okay, well, she's fine. She doesn't need the services. She doesn't need anything. Which I feel is what happened the last time I saw a mental health practitioner. I saw her for one session and I was like, well, I'm feeling better than I was when I made the appointment. And then I didn't see her again. As well as giving you guys a catch up on like the stuff that I've been doing to try and deal with my mental health, I also kind of want to talk about what it's like dealing with it on a daily basis, and how some of the things in day-to-day life don't help. Like, I am feeling quite frustrated with somebody that I do consider a friend at the moment, because in the lead up to my getting signed off work and me having this episode, he knew that I was having issues and I was struggling, and he would come up to me and say things like, oh, I can tell you're doing a lot better. You're doing really well. I can see it in yourself that you're doing better. Now, on the surface, that probably sounds like a really nice thing to say to somebody. However, your girl is like a pro at masking. When I'm not doing so good and it's not hit the point where I've had a breakdown yet, I can just coast on through. I can put my retail face on. I can just crack on with it. The thing with this interaction, I think, that bothered me the most was at no point had he said to me, how are you doing? Are you doing any better? It was the assumption that because the way that I was presenting myself outside of the house was not what he deemed to be the, like, what depression looks like. It kind of stung a little bit, I'll be perfectly honest. I was like, dude, you have no idea, and you still haven't taken the time to check in on me and be like, how are you doing? Are you doing better? Because then if I turn around and say, yeah, actually, I'm doing great at the moment, that would be the point where you could say, yeah, I can tell, it's like really evident, you seem a lot brighter, that kind of thing. But to just kind of make that assumption and be like, I can tell that you're doing better, just really didn't sit with me particularly well. That same person has also interrupted conversations that I've had with other people who do have a bit more of an idea of what's going on with me. Will interject themselves into the conversation about my well-being and how my recovery is going, with talking about himself and his own issues, which would have been fine if we were having a conversation about mental health generally. But to interject and invite yourself into a conversation that isn't about you, that you don't know enough about, to start talking about yourself, like, it was so frustrating. And I know that this isn't done with ill intent, but it just kind of, for me, in the headspace that I was in while this was happening, did make me feel like, yeah, you just don't get it. I cannot come to you because you are so far removed from the situation, because, I don't know, we've not been hanging out as much, and so some of that's on me because I did or have gone through a phase where I've been reducing my social interactions, both in and outside of work, because I physically don't have it in me, you know? Yeah, I just don't appreciate people thinking that they're an expert on my mental health. One, they're not a doctor or a psychiatrist, and two, they are not even up to date with what's going on with me. So that was something recently that it really didn't sit right with me, and I feel like has just formed a bit more of a divide between me and that person. I think people that haven't dealt with depression just think that being depressed is being really sad. And while that's an aspect of it, it's much bigger and way more complicated than that in like my experiences and the people that I have talked to who have had similar experiences. So I had a friend that I went to school with, and after we'd graduated, this was like post-university, like we'd met up, I'd gone home, she was at home, and we were talking about like mental health stuff. I think I was home because I was having a bad mental health time, and I went out with this old school friend and we were talking about it, and she had also been suffering with depression, but she didn't realise it. And it was only when she went to her doctor or like a on-campus counsellor or something like that, that someone turned around to her and was like, hey, you know, you sound like you're depressed. And to her, she just thought being depressed was big old sads. It wasn't until somebody else pointed it out to her, like when she was talking about her symptoms and stuff, that she even realised that she was depressed, because that wasn't what matched up with what the media says depression is. So it can be quite difficult with me because I don't really realise how I'm feeling until it's either really, really good and I'm absolutely elated and I'm on cloud 9, or on the other hand, I am absolutely non-functional, really, really depressed. Like, it's really difficult for me to pick up on those warning signs, or like the things aren't going so good, maybe we need to start implementing some of our coping mechanisms. And this is what I was talking to my mental health practitioner about yesterday, and I said, like, it's really difficult for me to pinpoint these things because I don't really know what I feel when it's not like a massive extreme. And again, she's not in a position to diagnose me, but I don't know whether that is solely the result of just being depressed. There are a lot of things that have similar symptoms and that can quite often be comorbid, but I know like the alexithymia and your emotions sort of being one extreme to the other, I guess. There is crossover with like borderline personality disorder, bipolar, and even symptoms of neurodivergence as well, like autism spectrum disorder and ADHD. It's frustrating because until I've seen somebody who can tell me what the fuck is going on with me and is qualified to do that, I'm just kind of, I sort of feel like I too am in this in-between stage, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm supposed to deal with this effectively. So since I've uploaded my Reset Week vlog that I put together, I have been doing better in terms of being a little bit more functional, keeping my space tidy, spending more time with the animals, and sort of looking after myself a bit better. Like, I feel like at the moment I just don't feel hungry, and if I forget to eat, I don't. When I'm at work, it's a little bit different because I have a lunch break and that is, oh, it's time to eat. Whereas when I'm at home, I don't really have that kind of structure in place. Especially if I'm doing something that is like taken over my focus and my attention, like it can be really difficult for me to pull myself away from something, and then I'll blink and then it'll be like 3 o'clock, 3:30, and then I'm like, oh well, I might as well just wait until dinner time. And then by the time that dinner time comes around, I don't want to eat either, so I'll have like a soup or a samosa. Like I'm not eating properly like that. It's also kind of why I'm reluctant to ever do one of those what I eat in a day videos, because I don't have the healthiest relationship with food generally, but also at the moment I just forget to eat a lot, which in turn means that obviously my calorie intake is a lot lower than it probably should be. Another thing with like struggling with my mental health and feeling the way that I do, that I personally find quite difficult, is feeling like I have done something to deserve this. I have done something that has made me feel this way, and it's all of my fault, and the reason that I'm not getting any better or I'm struggling to get better is because I am not doing the things that I should be, which is stupid because, like I said, I saw my mental health practitioner yesterday and she was like, you're doing everything that you need to, you're doing everything that has been suggested for you and you're still feeling like this. So it's quite easy, I don't know, like on one hand I'm like, yeah, like she gets it, fine. On the other hand, it's a bit more like, I thought I would not struggle to put a sentence together while I was filming this. I apparently am very wrong. Yeah, I feel like this is my fault and I've done something or not done something and that's why I'm feeling like this. Like, because on paper I'm doing everything right. I'm trying to get better. I am wanting to get better because I'm so fucking bored of feeling like this. And that's what really pisses me off, when people turn around and they say things like, oh, you just need to change your outlook. Babe, if that worked, I would be fine, you know? Generally, I am a pretty positive person. You know, when I'm feeling good, you know, I do try to look on the bright side and I do try to spend time doing the things that make me feel better. But when doing the things that make you feel better make you feel exhausted and then you spiral because you're feeling like shit, it can be a really, really difficult trap to get out of. And again, I think if you haven't experienced it, it's really difficult to get. Like, it still blows my mind that there are people that I see on a daily basis that have never struggled with their mental health. Like, one of my managers has never, like, she's my manager that I talk to, like, about my mental health stuff. She is like the person that I feel safe going to at work. She is a mental health first aider as well, but like, she has no first-hand experience with this, and like, she's told me this herself. She's never experienced a depressive episode or had issues with her mental health. She just gets up and goes about her day and doesn't have to think about it, and I'm just like, how? You know, sometimes it takes me so much energy to get myself out of bed when I'm feeling low. Like, it just blows my mind that there are people walking around here and their brains work the way that they're supposed to. It's just, it baffles me. Like, it is really difficult for me to wrap my head around, because I don't know whether it's because a lot of my close friends are very similar to me in that they've had, you know, run-ins with mental illness. It sounds like it's some sort of like mafia boss, but honestly that's how it feels sometimes. Like, I'm having to bargain and make deals with my stupid brain and it's exhausting. Sometimes I come out of it alright, and then other times I come out feeling like I've had the absolute shit kicked out of me. It's hard not letting myself spiral sometimes, because I get so wrapped up with my intrusive thoughts a lot of the time. And like, the biggest one that I'm experiencing at the moment, we're getting vulnerable. I'm telling you about my fucking horrible intrusive thoughts, like actually talking about them. This feels weird. One of the things that I'm struggling with the most with regard to like intrusive thoughts is the feeling that people around me and people that are important to me secretly hate me. They can't stand to have me around. That when I came back to work, everybody was gonna have been glad to see the back of me and they would have had a better time without me there. I feel like one of the intrusive thoughts that I have largely is that people saying one thing but meaning another. And I don't know whether this would like classify as a delusion, but like, sometimes the intrusive thought is that like, I can't trust what people are saying, that they have a different set of motives than what is laid out in front of me. So to my face, people could be absolutely fine, but actually behind the scenes they're just either like making fun of me or they don't want me around. It's kind of like, I don't know, I'm worried a lot of the time that people are saying one thing to my face and the reality of it is something completely different. I am very often paranoid that, yeah, things get said to my face that are one thing, but it's actually the complete opposite in reality. So people will be nice to me, but in secret they can't stand me and they don't want me around and they feel like I'm a nuisance and they don't want to spend time with me. Whew. And that can be quite difficult to deal with, especially when these people are people that are important to you. Just not knowing what people's intentions are and assuming the worst despite the stimulus that has suggested it. On the other hand, I will read into absolutely every single minor interaction that I have with somebody, whether it's their body language, whether it's the way that they've spoken to me, whether they've spoken to me at all, whether it's whether I'm perceiving them to be going out of their way to avoid me. That can be really difficult to deal with. And that subset of intrusive thoughts are the ones that I'm dealing with most regularly. In terms of like other intrusive thoughts that I've had recently, and we're talking like post me being back at work, because I did have another little meltdown at work recently where towards the end of my shift I just could not stop crying and I had to go and take some time off of the shop floor to recover. It was particularly bad because I'm walking home with having thoughts of it would be better for everybody if you weren't here, if you just kind of dipped out of being alive. Thinking about ways that I would potentially do that. And it was just this overwhelming, like it wasn't, I could hear it, it wasn't like it was an auditory hallucination, but like the thought was so loud and so all-consuming. Like literally I got into bed and like as soon as I got in, and I must have slept for about like 10 hours or something, and then woke up feeling like shit because I just, like it's the only way to turn that noise off. And I say noise, I don't mean noise, I mean like loud thought, I guess. And I'm pretty sure what I'm experiencing are just intrusive thoughts and not auditory hallucinations, because it's not like I think other people can hear them. But it's very similar to auditory hallucinations, or like representations of auditory hallucinations, because even when it's not an intrusive thought and it's like not a particularly bad thought, I want to say that like very often it feels like somebody is almost narrating my life as I'm doing things, and that was something that I didn't realise not everybody experiences. Sorry, my nose is really itchy. So yeah, I mean, I'm in a better place than I was, for sure. Like, I'm doing tons better than I was when I was in my depression era. I'm still in it. She's still in it, but I don't know. With this being like an ongoing thing that I'm experiencing, and like it being something that kind of ebbs and flows, this is the first time that I feel like I've had consistent care for my mental health and had people checking in on me regularly. And I don't know whether this is like post-pandemic, they've kind of like, I don't know, started taking things a bit more seriously. But yeah, I don't know, it's kind of weird. I had said previously that sometimes it feels like with the health service in the UK, like unless you're at the point where you're physically harming yourself, or you've got plans or have made an attempt on your own life, like it kind of feels like you get lost by the wayside a little bit. And I think it's only because I've gotten to the point now where I'm being so stubborn about it and I'm kicking off when I go to the doctors. I say kicking off, I'm not being horrible or rude, but like I'm definitely better at advocating for myself than I have been previously. And I don't know, it's a shame because like not everybody is in that position, you know? Similarly, not everybody is in the position where they're living totally independently, like totally by themselves. But, you know, it's just one of those things. It's just very, I don't know, I feel like it's very all-consuming at the moment, and like my entire life seems to be revolving around my mental health, and even that feels like work. Like it feels like so much work. It's exhausting. I'm so tired of being mentally ill, and I wish I could just stop, you know? I don't want to get like too down in the dumps on this, because like I said at the beginning of this video, I am doing so much better than I was. Like, I'm going out later today. It's my friend Luke's birthday, so I'm gonna go and see him and all of my friends. So I've got nice things planned for today, don't get me wrong. Yeah, I feel like I needed to get some of this stuff off of my chest. If it's something that you found helpful, let me know. If you've had similar experiences, drop a message down in the comments. And if you've got to the end of this video, drop one of those yellow hearts, because you know that they're my favourite. Hopefully the next time I do one of these Let's Talks, it's going to be less serious. Is that the right word? Probably not. Hopefully my content will start to pick up and be a little bit less depressing soon. But I figured, as I've shared so much of like my mental health journey, and I fucking hate calling it that, because journeys have destinations, you know? When am I getting off this fucking ride? When's my stop? Never, it feels like. But yeah, in all honesty, like, I probably will continue to do updates like this. It's very vulnerable me putting this out there, but I don't know. I find sometimes looking at, or sometimes I find watching people talk about their mental health and the things that they experience and doing it in a way that is quite vulnerable is nice for me to consume. So maybe I can help somebody else, even if it is just to help them feel less alone in the trials and tribulations of being sad. Yeah. Hopefully I'll have some more uplifting content soon. Feels like I say, my entire life at the moment is revolving around trying to get my mental health better. So of course that's what I'm going to be talking about a lot, I guess. Not doing so much other than dealing with my silly brain, but yeah. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and yeah, I will see you in my next upload. Bye.